most companies have the volume rocker on their earphones on the left. That's like a standard. So, of course, Apple puts it on the right. So, I'm just saying.
Davis and the Jake Man is a New England-based monthly podcast hosted by two certified computer technicians. The podcast is accompanied by our website, where we continue the discussion of subjects of note in the IT industry.
All right. So, folks, the wait is over. After a 3.5, 4 month hiatus, Davis and the Jake Man back on the air. And when I say the air, I mean the World Wide Web.
Hey, Wi-Fi is air.
Hey, I'm lead, so I hardwire in, okay? All right, so Davis, after a 3-month hiatus, we're back, and the reason for that being is, there's a very newsworthy event that's unfolding, namely the fiasco surrounding the Samsung Galaxy Note 7.
Yeah, this whole thing has been a disaster for Samsung.
All right, so in episode 9 of this podcast here, what we're going to try to do is unravel this whole event, extrapolate what it means for Samsung and its competitors moving forward. All right, so why don't we start with the most recent piece of news?
Apparently it is now a federal crime to bring a Galaxy Note 7 onto a U.S. airline. And this is because a Galaxy Note 7 happened to ignite on a plane and burn through the floor of the plane. They actually had to evacuate the passengers.
Now, the first thing that comes to mind anytime I read one of these pieces of coverage regarding the Note 7 is how bad this is going to be for Samsung. Like, would you say the Samsung brand is tarnished?
No doubt about it. I mean, they've already lost, $5.5 billion, especially since they're still recalling the phones. There's all sorts of return fees they're going to have to reimburse. As a show of good faith, they're giving each Galaxy 7 Note owner a $100 credit towards a new phone.
A $100 credit towards a new Samsung Galaxy phone. If, for example, they want to jump ship, go with the iPhone 7 or like a Nokia or a Sony, they're only getting $25 for all their troubles. Okay, so second most recently was that the Korean government announced that it is launching its own investigation into why it is that these handsets have been igniting. It was previously thought that it was the rechargeable batteries in these devices that was causing them to, explode is like a misnomer. Some more recent coverage has unveiled that it's one website said it sizzled rather than exploded, however you want to word it, but the point of the matter is it's not like a boom. It's just, it gradually gets warmer to the point that it's actually dangerous.
All right, so originally Samsung had performed an investigation of a supplier for their lithium-ion batteries. And apparently they never found the source, since after their initial recall, the new Galaxy Note 7s had the same issue.
Yeah, what happened was that the original supplier was actually a subsidiary of Samsung, and then during the exchange program, the new devices had a battery made by the same supplier as Apple, actually. So, obviously, since iPhone 7s aren't igniting, Samsung thought that they were safe. But the problem is they rushed the exchange, and they didn't invest enough time and research into detecting what the true issue was. They just sort of assumed it was the battery because it's the most likely. This has happened a few times in the past, I believe. There were Toshiba laptops a number of years ago, not Toshiba, but rather Dell. It was Dell laptops. They had Sony batteries. This happened in like the mid-2000s, but it wasn't the batteries that caused it. It was something else. Samsung has come out and admitted this. However, they still do not know what the real problem is.
Right. So far, we haven't seen their next flagship, the Galaxy S8. So far, that seems to be safe. No reports of exploding batteries or igniting batteries, as the case is. I still think that the Samsung name has definitely been tarnished. I don't think that people are going to be as willing to go out and buy a Samsung phone, at least until they know what the root cause of the ignitions are.
So it's a real shame, in my opinion, that just as Samsung was poised to take the market leader role from Apple, they outpaced Cupertino when it came to both design and specs, at least prior to the 7, because the Note 7 outperformed the 6S, but the 7, it's like an arms race. Really what the heart I'm trying to get at here is that if you project Samsung's future sales prior to the Note 7 fiasco, it was only a matter of time before they beat Apple at their own game. But this sort of, changes the fate of Samsung in a sense. The only person who could have stopped Samsung was Samsung. Due to their rushed launch of the Note 7, they've done exactly that. All right, Davis, so in your opinion, who benefits the most from this entire debacle?
I mean, in my opinion, I think that Google might benefit the most from this. Samsung was probably almost the flagship for Android at this point, with Google's Pixel phones coming out soon, and Samsung's just the value of the company has gone down some $5.5 billion last I checked. I mean, they still have all their other subsidiaries. They still have, their TVs and their other products, but their phone lines are going to be coming into question. I mean, the Korean government has launched an investigation. They've launched their own internal investigation. It's a matter of time till they either find the cause of it or never find the cause of it. And either way, they're still going to suffer.
Well, I'll word it this way. They're the only non-Chinese handset manufacturer to be able to turn a profit on making Android smartphones. I wonder if it's going to be a steady decline or if they're going to fall off a cliff. I wonder if, they're going to see a good percentage of sales on the 8 and then a little less on the 9, or if it's just no one buys the 8. You talked about how the 8 is in the works, and the timetable for Samsung phones the past few years has been the S line comes out in the spring and the Note line comes out in the fall. So we're expecting the 8 sometime around March or April thereabouts. And it'll be interesting to see if anyone buys the S8 or S8 Edge.
I think their profits are first going to drop off a cliff and then steadily decline. $100 off your next Samsung phone is almost a joke, really.
If they can keep people locked into the upgrade cycle, if they exchange their Note 7 for an S7 Edge and then buy the 8 Edge when it comes out, then in the long term, it's not a big deal. If they only incur it as a one-time loss, then it's a drop in the bucket. However, if people exchange their Note 7 for something besides a Samsung product, then, the loyalty Samsung has worked so hard to amass from its customers, may have been flushed down the toilet. As you mentioned, Davis, Google has a lot to gain here with the Pixel phone. Let's sort of switch it up now and talk about another handset manufacturer. This one is also based out of Korea, as a matter of fact. How about LG? They just announced their new V20 phone. This is a 5.7-inch flagship product. Much like Samsung, they release 2 flagships a year, the G series and the V series, and the V just dropped. This has specifications nearly identical to the Pixel, and it has some things that the Pixel doesn't. As I mentioned in my article for davisandthejakeman.com, Google is imitating Apple in a number of ways, but it's also imitating their faults, and we see this here in the manifestation of this new philosophy. There's no SD card slot. There's no removable battery in the Pixel phone. So it's essentially an Android iPhone. Whereas, LG is sort of the last big name to keep, 2 of the things that made Android phones great. Swappable batteries and expandable storage. So, that's a unique selling point of the V20.
Yeah, I definitely think that LG is going to benefit somewhat. As you mentioned, those features being removed from the Pixel is what is keeping me from moving to the Pixel next month. Obviously, expandable storage is very important. Google is offering like 100 gigabytes of cloud storage, but, in the off chance that you're disconnected from your network, you may not be able to access your Google Cloud from, in the middle of the woods or anything like that.
Speaking of the V20 was the launch device for Android version 7 Nougat, and it's about to come out. It was interesting why Google allowed LG the spotlight. They have worked closely with LG. This phone on the desk is an LG phone made in partnership with Google, the Nexus 5X. And your Nexus 7 was made through that same partnership. But it was sort of interesting that they didn't have a Nexus phone as the first version 7 device, and now we know why. It's because they were saving it for 7.1, and they were dropping the Nexus name. All right, so the final corporation Davis, on my little list here is Apple. The timing couldn't have been better. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I read somewhere down the line that, Tim Cook paid to sabotage Samsung. Like, it's ideal for them.
Yeah, I mean, weren't the batteries coming from, like, the same manufacturer?
That manufacturer is not a subsidiary of Apple. So they don't have any control over, but they don't make it. They just buy it.
Yeah, I mean, we've got probably 3 main companies vying for the fall spotlight. We've got Apple with their iPhone 7, we've got your LG V20, and then we've got the Google Pixel phones. We're going to have to wait till the first couple sales weeks to really see the results of this. But, I mean, I think that Samsung has definitely had some tangible harm here.
It's funny because you actually are in the market for a new phone at the moment. If money were no object, Davis, would you get a V20, a Pixel XL, or an iPhone 7 Plus?
Honestly, if money were no object, I would probably look into the Pixel phones. I have been locked into the Android ecosystem for a long time. There are some apps which are basically required for me at this point.
Okay, and what are those apps?
Well, there's the Google Drive stuff, although I know that...
All right, you know where I'm going with this. Every app you mention, I'm going to say available on iOS.
Fine, I'm wrong, okay?
So, I mean, the thing is, folks are so used to Android that it's almost like they're locked in. But unlike Apple, which has its iMessage, which is, not cross-platform because it's an Apple platform, there isn't like a killer app on Android that isn't available on iOS. You and I message for the website through Telegram, that's cross-platform. Obviously, SMS is cross-platform, Facebook Messenger is cross-platform, and these dozens of other chatting apps are cross-platform. That's the most commonly downloaded type of app, is IMing, and they're all cross-platform except for iMessage. So Google can't lock people in to its system.
All right, well, the biggest reason I want to try the Pixel phone is because it's such a departure from everything else that Google has done with the Android operating system. I mean, I think that the Pixel is what Google originally intended. They're going to have more control over it. The updates are going to be more frequent. It's going to be the newest version of Android OS. It's going to be a premium phone with the specs to match the iPhone. I respect Apple as a company because of the whole San Bernardino privacy case. The encryption on their iPhones has been almost unbreakable. But the Pixel, I just want to see how this whole thing will play out.
I mean, it's not just the speed that you're paying for, in the case of Pixel and iPhone. It's peace of mind.
So, I mean, when I eventually jump ship, my choices are basically between the iPhone and the Pixel. I can't really bring myself to trust LG. I have bias against them because of my phone not being updated and just the constant worry. I have no peace of mind with this phone. Thank you for listening to episode 9 of Davis and the Jake Man. Please check out our YouTube channel. We've also done some gaming videos lately. Just search YouTube for D and the JM Gaming. We're also working on a couple other things, so stay tuned.
Yeah, I just searched for on YouTube. We're the top result, and because who else is gonna call their anything that's so weird?
We've got that on tape now. It's so weird.
It is. It's weird, but it's us. All right, and then...
So, are we weird? Transitive property?
Yeah, well, yeah. What the main YouTube channel seeks to do is Davis and I devised this concept called Articles Read Aloud. It's where we read our best articles from davisandthejakeman.com. While you're listening to us read these articles, we display the words of the article on the screen as we're saying them. So it's sort of like a hybrid of an audiobook and closed captioning all sort of rolled into one. I don't think this sort of content exists anywhere else. It's something unique to D and the JM, and we're very proud of it.
Yeah, so please check it out. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you think.
And don't forget on each Sunday to tune in to Davis's Tech News. Search for the hashtag Tech News, where we discuss the latest goings on in the drag racing world. Yeah. Extreme. All right. Cut. D and the JM is a news website founded and run by 2 individuals residing in the United States. It's not a company or corporate entity of any sort. nor is it associated with any person or legal entity other than its founders. The views expressed on the Davis and the Jake Man website, podcast, and official social media accounts are solely those held by its founders. Visit us at davisandthejakeman.com. And don't sue us. This podcast is brought to you by iBroadband.
iBand?
Well, that just sort of sounds like a fitness band. You know, like a Fitbit, but like Apple makes it so it's white and it costs twice as much.
iFi.
Oh, that's pretty good. iFi. I like that. You know, there's one called an iFi with an EYE. It's just an SD card with built-in wireless.
I'm sure Apple would win the lawsuit. They've got way too much money to throw around.
Here we have Cat 6E cables hand-drawn out of an aluminium slab. And we worked for years to make sure this is the most magical, courageous internet service provider available. Yes, we partnered with everyone to make sure it was the perfect iDevice.